It's a known fact amongst creators that in our modern era, we have on average about 12 seconds to captivate our audience's attention. That means we have about 6 seconds to invite them into our worlds, and then another 6 seconds to convince them that the world which they've just stepped into is infinitely more interesting and worth their time than the world which they left. For the rest of the time they give us, we need to show them magic. And we do this using the language of the sublime, the language of passion, the language of the abstract, the language of melody, and if all else fails, we use the language of Gucci glasses and gold chains. Joining us today for this third Popcontakt evening of the year is a group of extremely eclectic and interesting guests, each of whom possess a skill set that's necessary for the creation of these musical, magical worlds. I'm going to hand things off to our lovely interviewers, Silan and Vanis. My name is Cody Chambers, and welcome to Popcontakt.
Okay, good evening.
Hello, hello.
So this first round, we're going to get to know you guys a little bit better. We're going to take a look at some of your work. But first of all, I would like to know where everybody is. Of course, we got REINDIER right here. Bjorn, where are you at?
I'm in Antwerp right now.
Cool. And you?
We Stockholm in Antwerp.
Ah.
I'm pretty close.
Oh, nice. Latanya, you're in Amsterdam, right?
Yes, I'm in Amsterdam.
Ah, that's close to home. Jordan, how about you?
I'm in Paris, guys.
Ooh, nice.
All right. We're going to start off with presenting all of you guys to the public one by one by showing a video. And we're going to start with Jordan. Jordan Cardoso is, you're an executive producer of music videos at Couscous, and we have worked with videos for like Black featuring Khalid and Benny Sings featuring Mac DeMarco. But we're going to look right now at a video of the song Sandstorm by Mereba, if I pronounce it correctly.
These mirrors know our secrets. They've witnessed our wild, our highs spent riding the wind. And they watched as all the storms started circling our dunes. Strangers once turned to strangers again. And if these mirrors could speak, their voices just might crack and shake and shatter the glass into fragments. Take a piece of my love. We've been through enough stuff. Now we need to grow up and away. We were low, we were high, Jaku had us to stay by your side. You know I tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. I was wrong, you was right, justified, I was playing with fire. What a divide, 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 divide. Good God, these niggas are crazy. Justified the feeling, that's all we do. Inside is killing me, baby. Outside I'm cucumber goo. We might just really be crazy. He might just, she might just. What if I told you? What if I told you? I miss the old you. That I miss the old you, baby. I used to hold you tight. A ride or die for life. But I couldn't mold you. I didn't own you, baby, but I'm on my own too now. I've grown to know a lot of shit that I didn't before. My heart in your grip, don't let my shit slip on the floor. I follow the drip and follow you soon when you're gone. I try to remember, but then I remember that you got a temper and I got no filter. So it's like a sandstorm when we get the blow. Can we please take it easy? Let's just act like adults. I'ma keep it cool now. Although I know it's through now. Good God, you
Nice, nice. So, Jordan, you are an executive producer. Can you like tell us what it means and like what it is you do?
It actually means a lot, like for like different people. Like sometimes there's a different meaning or stuff like that. In my case, it's I'm working closely with a roster of directors, like different directors. I'm trying to keep it like super small, so not more than 10 directors. So I can spend a lot of time with them to work creatively and just try and push like the creative envelope, whatever the project is. And if you want, my goal is really like to be between the labels, so the clients, can be like the video commissioners, managers, artists, like whatever, and my directors. And I'm trying to make like everything like clear for both parts. So the whole like production is getting like smoother with everyone. And the most important is obviously like to make sure like the creatives are respected, but also like sticking to a budget. So this is my job, and the whole process. I'm receiving like pitch from labels, and I'm trying to think about who could be like the best director for this project, especially, and then being the budget and then making creatively a project happens.
Yeah. So you're mostly doing like a lot of practical things, right? But are you in some way also involved in like the creative process, or is it? Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. So like how? Sorry, some stuff is happening on the screen. So how are you involved in creatively?
Just to summarize this quickly, I think like my input, my creative input is just like I try to bring. I mean, I know sometimes I feel like my position just make me know like better the clients, but also because I used to be a manager, I used to work a lot with labels and stuff like that. So I know like their demands, basically like what they're expecting from us. So I'm trying to tell also the artists where we need to be visual. And do you have something that is breaking, or can you hear me properly?
We're having some technical difficulties, so we.
If you hear the audio or you hear the audio. I hear you loud and clear in the way here in Belgium, so it's just some odd.
Yeah, we can also hear you. We just can't see you, but that's okay. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it like this.
All right.
But yeah, the creative wise is just like making sure like the artist, like the directors can express himself or herself, and make sure like the artist is happy. And of course, I need to keep an eye, like a close eye on production to know like what is doable versus like what is like very expensive, like a cool idea but too expensive.
That's always the thing, having great concepts, but they cost. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that later on. But now we're going to move on to our next guest, Reinier van Harten, also known as Reindier. An artist who specializes in both musical and theatrical performances. Reindier uses a fluid band to convey a variety of expressions. And he's also a graduate of this school, the Conservatory of Amsterdam. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome home. How are you feeling? How's it feel to be back?
Good. Yeah, it's actually, of course, during Corona, I've never been here. So it's,
Yeah, of course.
it is 2 years, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a really long time.
What has the school meant for you as an artist?
A lot. Yeah, really a lot to develop, of course, musically, but also see the possibilities of... I was always fascinated by theater and by the possibilities of costumes and decor. And this school made that also possible that I think that way. So it's not just, okay, you have to be really good at your instrument, but you can also see what else is there. So that's what I've learned also here.
No, that's beautiful. Like the school really allows you to explore the extremes and like,
yeah.
Nice. Okay, let's watch some of your work. We're gonna have a look at your latest music video called Aphrodite and Tentacles.
Yes.
1, 2. Do you hear us?
Oh,
Yeah.
we're back. Okay.
We're
No,
all back.
I was just asking Reindier what his visual art means to him.
Yeah, I said it was the first chapter of a visual album I am right now making, but the concept is that it's a triptych of 3 different forms. So I'm gonna release my story in an album, a short movie, which this was the first chapter, and a theatrical concert, and they all tell the same fairy tale I wrote. So for me, this visual output means a lot because I can put everything together, like musically and imagery.
So when you write, do you automatically have a vision for instance, your lyrics or the music, or what is your process like?
Yeah, it's funny because for me, it's not. I never studied like 5 hours straight just, for example, keys. For me, it's always like I start writing a song, then after an hour I'm like, oh, I have a character in my head. I go write down the character, then I go back to my song, then I'm like, no, I have to visualize that character, so I'm gonna write the character like I paint it, then I go back to my music. So it's always switching for me.
It sounds very multi-dimensional.
Yeah, it's always multi-dimensional.
There's like a lot of emphasis on artists like really manifesting their visual identity, especially in this day and age. Like, why is that, do you think? Why is there such a focus on,
Yeah, I think it's because we feel that there's the most space to be different and to explore different things. That's why I'm working with different kind of artists from different fields, because they give me something that I can put in my music. And because before maybe it was like we had the synthesizer, then we had the electric guitar, and now it is like all those technology that's bringing us something new. So I guess that's it.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's move on to our third guest. It is the one and only Björn Tagemose. Björn has worked in the arts, music, film, and fashion industry with some of the world's top artists like Iggy Pop, Grace Jones, David Guetta, Tiesto, Queens of the Stone Age, and the list goes on and on and on. I once also had the pleasure to work with him in a video with my band Collective Conscience, which we're going to show later on also. But yeah, you have an extensive experience in like shooting for campaigns and directing commercials and films. So let's have a look at a short reel about Björn.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different.
Sorry for disturbing the peace.
Wonderful.
Yeah, very nice. So Björn, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Because it is a lot. I've worked with you as a director, but like you're also a photographer, but I'll let you do the talking.
I think I can very much identify with reindeer, was it right, Reindeer?
Reindeer, yes.
Yeah, reindeer. I think I was born in the wrong age. I should have been born in your age. Since I'm 52 now, but I think what's so amazing about this generation is that there's so many tools at hand to put on different hats. And I think the difference when I started was that you could only wear one hat. And if you would wear another one, you'd be the director, you couldn't be the DOP, or you couldn't be the art director, or you couldn't be the stage designer. And in this day and age, you can be pretty much everything. And I think that's very much what I do. You know, I started in fashion as a photographer because film was too expensive. A roll of 16 millimeter film would cost 500 euros. So the only way to shoot was to shoot stills. And these days we shoot 8K cameras you can buy for 3,000-4,000 euros. So the world has changed drastically. And I think that sort of laid the path. Many different interests, graphics, building stages. I did quite a lot of stage designs for different musicians in the world. For Grace Jones, for Iggy, for a lot of Latin artists as well, like Juan Luis Guerra or Miguel Bosé. So it's been very, very different. But I think that the main reason why all of these things came together was the fact that lighting, which was an instrument as a photographer, filmmaker, DOP, which is my basic trade where I come from, in staging became video. And these days, lighting is video and video is lighting. It has completely merged. And I think that's why, why the world opens up to games, to multi-screen, going from live to classic formats. You can blend and mix everything. So I think that's why I do a lot of different things. You roll from one thing into the other. You know, it's strange how life takes you somewhere creatively.
Yeah, and you have also a production company called Shoot the Artist, and you call it like a 5D production company. So what is the 5D about?
Yeah, I think it comes from a few things I heard from Jordan as well. I think I can stand by Jordan very much. My wife is the producer, but I have different producers along the world, and they are the Swiss knife of the creative. So they are definitely very creative, but they are the bridge. So I recognize that really very well, you know, like, and with the stuff we do locally, artistically, like for instance, Collective Conscience, which is in Black Wave, smaller project, to still be able to realize that, I think it's interesting to have a production tool at hand. So sometimes I'm into productions of other production companies as a director or DOP, and sometimes I'm producing the things myself when they really ask for it. And it really depends on the job or the locality where these jobs are at. But I think I followed in the footsteps of people like Nick Knight, who built his own studio. Herb Ritz did the same thing. I think very much it was out of frustration of the fact that maybe you didn't find your perfect Jordan. You know, sometimes you can find your perfect Jordan, and sometimes it doesn't match, and then you need to fall back on somebody or something that can produce it. And I think where it links with Reindeer, I think I'll call you Reindeer in English, it's easier for me, is also the fact that you can be a multi-artist when you are sort of in the center of your own spectrum. And it's a lot about cooperating with others. So for me, it's always teamwork. Like, I don't see myself as the chief, I see myself as the coach of the team. And I just drag in people. It could be producers like Jordan, it could be artists, it could be another director if I feel like it, if I just want to do the visual thing, or maybe I just want to be directing. And I think having your own production organism is very interesting, because it liberates you a lot from commercial interests when you want to go really far, you know, like. So I could say, like, the stuff that's more commercial, like, I just wanted to show you broad, real, like if you're shooting for a Nike or an Adidas, it's very good to have a real experienced producer backing you. But like this week I shot for Walter van Berendonk, we shot Queercore, which is a hardcore queer punk movie. And it's so underground and weird that you can just only produce it yourself, because it's You know, like most people would run away from it. So if you want to keep on doing both, I think you need to be bigger than your one man or girl. I think it's a Scandinavian thing. You should put away your ego really low and work in a group. And that's really the motto of everything I've done. I think it's never me. With collective conscience, you are the living example of it. You also work in a group. So yeah, it's a long answer, but it's a difficult question to answer too.
No, it's a very beautiful answer. Like art over ego, right? I would like to introduce. Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our last and final member of the panel, Latanya Alberto. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay. Latanya is a singer-songwriter based in Amsterdam who started her career independently, creating music from a poetic, soulful, and mellow approach. She likes to blend her musical stories with visual expressions to add a total experience. How important is that total experience to you? Like, and at what point in your creative process do you start thinking about, you know, what your lyrics look like, what your stories would look like on a screen?
Yeah, so my process is very much built in layers. So I consider myself a writing artist and a performing artist, but I try to really be in the moment when I'm writing and really try to go over what the narrative is and where the things come from I want to translate before I think about the visuals, even though I get a lot of ideas and I'm like, oh, I want to do this and that. But for me, it's really important to respect every stage to give it the attention it deserves in order for it to be the best thing I can make for the moment.
Beautiful. Okay, let's take a look at some of your work. We're going to take a look at the video for your song called Royals.
They say misery likes company. I can't be fearless with danger on top of me. Move your body aside on my head. Misery likes company, yeah. Scared to repeat history. We hide, we get high all the time, all the time. Romeo, Romeo, pull me down. Romeo, pull me down. We all got scars we don't know about. Can't have you hurt me cause you're too proud. You're just too proud. Romeo, Romeo, pull me down. Romeo, pull me down. I still got fears I don't know about. Can't have you help me cause I'm too proud. I'm just too proud. I've been praying to accompany you. A clean slate with no fear. The future youth going under. To public thunder. Can't wait till the summer. Reflect all the redemption of the motherland. And you and I need to go through what we left behind as a child. Reflection regardless returns on you, turns on you. Romeo, Romeo, pull me down. Romeo, pull me down. We all got scars we don't know about. Can't have you hurt me cause you're too proud. You're just too proud. Romeo, Romeo, pull me down. Romeo, pull me down. I still got fears I don't know about. Can't have you help me cause I'm too proud. I'm just too proud.
It's like breaking crystals or breaking glass. One remains as strong and the other one is complete.
We're all flexing on our own pace. It's elusive to reflect our common ground. So on pair of eyes, common eyes, all
So that was your song Royal. Beautiful. Like, could you tell us a little bit about the story behind the song and the visuals? I saw this lady standing there in what looks like a traditional kind of a garment, maybe Caribbean. Like, could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so when I first started writing the song, I wanted to emphasize a part of my culture, which is Caribbean, but also Surinamese. And I wanted to highlight that part of me, but also the struggle of giving and receiving love and having trouble getting to the point in because of trauma that has been there for generations, but you don't always know about. So that's where it came from. And then when I started writing the song, I really wanted to give it a poetic sense. And I feel like the poetry adds some mystery and some, yeah, it makes it a little bit harder to understand at first. So when I created that song and I added all that, I really wanted to add that mystery to the visuals as well. So as you can see in the video, there were elements of the guy that is crying, the kids, and the traditional wear. And I wanted the viewers to feel like they have to watch it a couple of times to understand what is really going on, and to maybe feel resemblance to a couple of things in the story. Yeah, it's become very precious to me because I know the story behind it, but when I hear others about it and they want to have a conversation, it's really beautiful to see how they feel like they belong into the story, what their experiences are. So that's really my goal as an artist, to start a conversation and to talk about these subjects and things that are sometimes heavier and harder to talk about, but give it a romantic and a poetic and an aesthetic sense to make it more easy.
Nice. That's that thought process translates very well because it's a very intense experience watching that video. So, would you say that your visual identity is as important as your music itself? As the music itself?
100%. I started making music. When I started singing, it was only about my voice, and I really had to discover what I wanted to do with it. And then when I became an artist, when I started releasing my own music, I became very interested in the visual process, but also the post-production, the production side of the music and the lyrics. And I think it's really important to create a complete experience for people and for myself, and to really spend some time on taking things further than only the music. And as I delve into that experience, I really liked it, and I took it further.
Imagine it's very satisfying. Well, now that we've introduced all of you, I'd like to invite Cody back to the stage.
Hey, thanks so much to our guests and to our amazing interviewers. One thing that really struck me about this round is actually how integrated the video and the visuals are into the actual process of making the song. And that kind of reminded me of this video I saw of Chad Hugo of the Neptunes talking about the way that Pharrell would make a song, where he'll kind of spend 5 minutes on the keyboard and then he'll write a quick hook, but then he'll have the music video in his head the whole time. So it goes to show you how, you know, a true creative sees the whole world and how things fit together and takes a multifaceted approach. I'd like to continue the night by playing for you guys a couple of videos by Frey. The first of which is a lyric video for their song How to Love the Empty Air, and the second which is a music video, a dance music video for their song Palace Made of Dreams. Take a look.
As one of the two seeds you planted, still blossoming. I'm here to tell you you're missed. Your absence shaped all of us in ways you couldn't foresee. But Mama grew lotuses in the mud you left behind. You knew the only way to truly rise was to climb 1,000 steps. Still, you tried to take the elevator over and over again. You left. Your lover's heart forever broken. You left. Your sister's season in September's rain running down their cheeks. Your brothers ask in the night sky why you left, why you left, why you left, why you left, why you As one of the two seeds you planted, still blossoming. I'm here to tell you you're missed.
Sleep in a palace made of dreams. Feasts serenading make believe. Born beneath the canopies, but now my tears drip on my teeth. I leave a spell on you. A spell on you. I'm stronger than your eyes perceive. Take all of your sympathies and leave them at the door before you come to me. Your sword might cut through dragon skin and thorns, but do I owe you blood? Roses from my chambers, tearing apart your fairy tales. Shattered magic mirrors, spare your kisses, dear. I can climb from here. Wow. You'll see I'm free. Roses from my chambers. No more handing out favors. Shattered magic mirrors, spare your kisses, dear. I can climb from here. Yes, I'm free. You'll see. Building a palace made of dreams.
You were just listening to Frey, the band, and that was the videos for Palace Made of Dreams and for How to Love the Empty Air. And the singer you heard is my amazing co-host, Frederica.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start off this round, which will basically be about how to take the vision that's in your head and manifest that into something that's tangible. I'd like to start it by asking a question to specifically Bjorn and Jordan, and that's when you start to work with a new artist, I was wondering what the first steps were that you took to establish kind of the direction for the creative process. Like, what are the first things you kind of use to feel out the waters with each other and kind of get the ball rolling?
You want to take it, Jordan?
All right, let's go. Let's go. I think the most important for me is, above all, is what the artist had in mind, what basically like the person wrote the song, what was the purpose, was the person happy, was the person sad, what kind of emotions I'm gonna have to, and feelings I'm gonna have to translate creatively. But just to rebound also on what Bjorn was saying, I'm also directing right now. So just also like showing you guys that basically it's always like, I mean, just being able like to touch like everything, being like multi hats, and just like basically like trusting your guts with everything you wanna do, And as a director or a producer, I mean, whatever the case, it's always important to stick to the first raw material that is for me like music, whatever happens, even when it's about like budget and stuff like that. When I'm telling sometimes like people, like they call us and they're like, you're gonna be like too expensive for us, and I'm just like, before like even talking about money, budget or whatever, like please send me the music. I'm super curious. I'm happy to make stuff happen if the music is right, if the emotions like match perfectly, and if I can envision what the artist was trying to also like to share with the public.
I think I can agree very much with Jordan. For me too, music is everything that sort of drives me. So I work a lot in fashion too, but even in fashion, it's music driving me. I use it as a language on set. If I make fiction stuff, I will actually wax my actors by playing songs and conveying moods to them before they actually act. And because of what they've heard before, they're actually acting what they've been hearing. It's really weird and it's extremely effective. Especially maybe with people who are less experienced in front of a camera. Music is just the absolute conveyor of emotion, I think. So, and for me, when it's specifically a job for a musical artist and not a fashion designer or something else, I think it's actually for anybody I work for, when it's in a commission job, it would be tapping into their world and being a megaphone for their personality rather than trying to impose my own personality. Like I actually learned that mostly from Grace Jones, like doing her shows with Aiko, and there's so much good ideas that if you come in and you storm, I'm a very talkative person, I'd storm in and ram in all these ideas I have, I would miss the genius in front of me. So I learned the hard way with getting older to listen first, like just see what's the story behind it, what is their world. I'm just here to enlarge the world, and if it's Walter like this week, who is a gay punk, or it might be Blackwave, who is a completely different entity, or it might be Iggy, who is from another world than our world here on Earth. It's impossible for me to become Iggy, but it's definitely possible for me to enlarge his voice, and to do that for somebody who's not me, somebody who's completely different than me. And I think that's the fun thing about directing, I guess, that you can crawl into the skin of somebody else and sort of enlarge it. It's different when you do personal stuff, and when you make your own fiction or your own art, which I do as well. But then sometimes I do vice versa. I'll turn it around. I'll invite other artists into my world and ask them if they want to join. Like Götterdämmerung is an example of that. First I did shows for Grace Jones with Aiko's Clothes and Grace's World, and then I asked Grace to be the white painted version of Death. For me, it was like the metaphor for Max von Sydow's Seventh Seal, because Death is always a white old man. So me and Grace had this joke to turn that around and say, like, let's play with these sensitive stereotypes and put that in the movie. So it's, Iggy is another character in there. He doesn't play Iggy, he plays an angel, and then he turns into a devil. But the weird thing is that their personality is unkillable. It'll stay in the movie, but it'll become my world and they tune into it. But usually I tune into their world. So most of my jobs are tuning into somebody else's world and trying to enlarge that spectrum. I think it's the power of any great director that I like from the past. Like a lot of them are from your side of the world, Jordan. Michel Gondry is probably my favorite. And Jean-Paul Goud also. I'm like an unbelievable Jean-Paul Goud fan. Because he enlarged Grace. He didn't impose himself. And that's the genius in these guys,
Really about listening is what I'm hearing. I'm curious from the artist point of view, what Reinier and like what are you looking for in a filmmaker or in a director?
Like what they can bring to me, or
yes, yeah. How do you choose who to work with, for instance?
Yeah, for me it is important that if I need to feel safe. So I put a lot of things in my music and art, which is a thing I deal with at the moment. And for me, it's easy to put my story in a fairy tale, because that's the way I always work. I make up a story of characters, of like an Alice in Wonderland kind of trip, but it's still me. So it's my fantasy, but it still deals with the things I'm dealing with at the moment. So the first thing I do is tell that story to a director and see how they react. And if they are like, if they are losing it, if they are like, but what do you mean you are like, if it's getting difficult, then I know immediately like this is not a match. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's very, it's also a bit body language, but
yeah. Body language, I like it. And what about you, Latanya?
Yeah, for me, it's very much, it has two sides. It's very much about the subconscious, because it starts at a very vulnerable place. And if I am working with someone, I need to make sure I'm on the same line, because the person has to crawl into my subconscious. And it is very vulnerable, but when you're creating something, it becomes very practical. And then in the translation, it needs to be magic again. So it's a process, but it's also sometimes for me interesting to get the point of view of the director, because you can be in your head a lot, and sometimes the triggers from someone else can bring new ideas. So if you make sure you're on the same line and someone understands the vision, I think it can be magical as well to have the other side on it as well. But it's a very delicate process.
It sounds almost like kind of finding your temporary soulmate, like in that you need to understand their character on almost like a kind of a like an ESP level, like you're reading each other's minds or something. And I remember, Bjorn, you were kind of talking about understanding the character of these peoples that you were working with, like understanding the character of Grace Jones or Iggy Pop, and seeing how that character can be kind of used to elevate the story that you're trying to portray. So it's almost like you're speaking without speaking in a certain sense. Is it important for you to be close on a personal level with the people that you work with, or can you kind of work for the day and then go on about your lives? What's the closeness that has to be there?
It's vital that is an intense process that you go through. Otherwise, there's no way you can translate somebody else's world, I think. But I think that is strange, I think, what in my life has been really strange, is that I had unbelievable clicks with people who are from a world that were really alien to me. Like especially the Latin world was very interesting, because I had no connection with it, not musically and not culturally. And I remember flying to Santo Domingo to Juan Luis Guerra's studio, and it was in mini rainforest, and there were real parrots inside. And it was so alien, and then his band 44 with all these drummers, there was like 16 percussionists around me. And I was thinking, why the hell did he ask me to come over there? Because I'm from a completely different spectrum. But the weird thing is that in some way, there's always this invisible octopus connecting people, that you understand each other. And then there's magical stuff coming out of that. And all of a sudden you're in the middle of a merengue thing and you don't know where it came from, so it's strange. So I think that's so cool about blending, blending stuff and blending cultures, blending everything together in one big mixer. It's also something that concerns me these days, that there is a lot on social media about separating cultures and identities belong to a certain group. Whereas in my world, any color, any gender, any music, any genre should mix. And that's where all the great things in the art world in the last centuries have come from. It's the street dogs that have crossbred, and I think we should all embrace that, like crossbreed everything. That's where the cool stuff comes from, I think.
I think that the thing that holds that together is empathy and is respect for these different cultures. Like this approach only works, the mixing of different worlds, if both people really have a deep respect and understanding for kind of the subtleties of each other's worlds, I feel like. And I have a question for Jordan. When I was watching multiple videos that you had produced, one thing that struck me was how, you know, with certain artist music videos, it feels like the music video is kind of centered around creating an aura for the artist, and it's all about that specific artist. But actually, when I was watching your videos, it looked a lot about kind of community and about relationships between people. How do you create this environment with everybody in the studio to kind of give off this aura of kind of an interconnected narrative?
I think like first of all, I'm trying to avoid like studio and stuff like that most of the time. It's true that I love to shoot in like proper location with some life. So I think there is stuff that you cannot fake. For example, like sometimes when you're trying to have like a community or stuff like that, you need like to have people sharing the same kind of values. I can tell you a story, for example, but for my upcoming short movie, for example, I was casting a mother, like a role of a mother, and I was meeting like women in this case, and I could tell who was a mother and who was not, because basically I was trying to relate like a story between like a son and a mom, and it's true, it's something like really like invisible, something that you can really feel, but it's amazing. Even if you ask someone like a very good actress, for example, like the person is a really good comedian, and you're going to talk about like how she could be like split up with like a son, for example, if she's not a mom, you're going to feel it. If the people like don't hard together and they're like the same values, and they're like the same like kind of like spirit that Björn was just mentioning, of having like all the people together, like trying to having people together versus like trying to split up people and divide. That's something that you can also feel, and I think like what is also like helpful, like with what we produce with Couscous, is obviously the crew that we had. It can sound like weird, but it's true. Like just when you take a step back as a producer and you look at your crew and you see like diversity, you see like a woman doing like some jobs that people like think that these are like men's job, for example, or having like all kind of diversity, all kind of background of stuff like that. This is beautiful. This is not something that you can fake. You are calling people for talents. You're not calling them for what kind of community they're from. And then when you mix all those people together, it creates like magic, and then you have like this feeling of you watching the video, something like, because you were not on set. But our main goal with my production company Couscous is trying to share stuff that happens on set, but through YouTube or socials like Instagram and stuff like that. But I'm happy you felt it, honestly.
It translated beautifully.
Yeah, it really, really did. Then I have a little bit more of a practical question again for Latanya and Reinier. What jobs do you occupy within the video making or production process to imprint your signature stamp on the final product? So what kind of what things do you do on the set or in the production when you're making a video? What are your roles? Because you're you're the artist, but like what? What
for
roles do you
me
take
it
on?
is. I'm part of the story writing, of course, because it comes from my story that I wrote. But I also like to be. Take a bite of everything. Like, so for example, the choreo that we did in this music video, someone made it, but I gave the person like the tools. Like I said, I want stuff like this and not like this. So then I can always come back also and set, like I can look back and check if it's still in the vision in my head. Yeah. So that's the same thing for styling and for makeup. And but I think you need to also let go sometimes, because I can be really like, oh no, this is not exactly what I wanted. But then at the end, when I see the result, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's not what I wanted, but it's even better.
I
so
get
sometimes
now what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
How is that for you?
I agree, and especially as an independent artist, you sometimes have to take on the role of several things. And I agree with Reindier about wanting your vision in every aspect of it. So in the styling and in the makeup. And I think when you're very certain of what message you want to give the people, and it needs to be visible in the hair, in the makeup, in the styling, it's very important to be involved in it and to assist the people that are actually in charge. And yeah, I think you also learn a lot about doing things yourself, or taking on some other roles than just being the artist. Because when you're working with a bigger team and working with a lot of people on set, you know what they're doing and you can translate your vision better. So I agree with you. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, when we were doing our research about, watching your videos, Latanya, we were actually really blown away as to the fact that you were an independent artist, because all of these videos are really, really amazing and of very high quality. And I think that all comes from this really real specificity to a vision, and to having, it seems like all of your videos are kind of uniformly you. So I was wondering how it is that you came up with this visual aesthetic that you're kind of building around, using as a skeleton for your videos.
Yeah, so thank you. Like I said before, the narrative is the most important. So when I have a story in mind, I'm thinking, okay, how can I translate this into the hair? How can I translate this into the styling and into the story that's told in the music? And I think when that narrative is really strong and you really know what you want, it all comes together when you are in charge of a lot of things, or you have the right people around you that really know what you're trying to tell. And yeah, it just comes together. And I really like doing a lot of stuff, and I'm interested in learning a lot of new things. So I think the visual things people see are the best extension of the music you can experience, and it has to be authentic, it has to be new. And every time I'm making a new video, or I'm thinking of something new, it doesn't even have to be a video. I'm thinking, okay, how can I translate my authentic self into anything? And the outcome has to be new, and it always starts with me.
How is that for you, Reinier?
Yeah, I'm always, for me also authenticity, yeah, is very important. But at the same time, I know we live in a world where we constantly like looking at each other, like copying each other, and that's a good thing, of course. But for me, that's why I don't know, I did it as a little boy already, like making the fairy tales, because then I could really, with imagination, think of something that's really mine. So for me, it gives the freedom to really feel that whatever people are thinking of it, I decided to make it, and I decided to write that story, and it has never been written before because it's somewhere in my head, and I think that really gives me freedom.
So instead of feeling confined by kind of the responsibility of being, I guess, boxed into a visual language that you create, you actually find liberation in that you can be yourself. All of these things already exist inside of you. You're just using these things to kind of help people empathize with you better.
Yeah, because it's also very vulnerable to be an artist and to say something about the world. You know, I make music because I cannot imagine something else to do. But at the same time, I know I need my audience. I need my public because I love them too, and I want them to come to my concert. But I'm constantly in conflict. Like, what am I going to tell? I want to tell everything, but at the same time, I want them to know nothing, if you know what I mean. Like, it's me, and at the same time, it's like too personal. And I'm always And I was in conflict with that. And right now I feel like with making a movie like this, with creating a story, with all those disciplines, we made some new universe together. And that's totally mine. And you can say whatever you want to, but I don't care anymore. So that's really nice about
We love it.
music videos. Well, and if you don't,
think-
it's also okay.
I think it's really interesting as well to go over where, because you said a lot of people are copying and the things we come up with come from somewhere. So it's interesting to go over where it came from and what it was that gave you the inspiration, and then go back to yourself like, okay, how am I going to change that? How am I going to come up with something new? And I do also feel like I want to give the people what they want, but for me it's backwards. I do what I want so strongly, and I'm so persistent in how I see myself and how I want other people to see me. And then I'm like, okay, who wants to follow follows, who doesn't. And I think at the end of the day, when you're growing through the years, you gain an audience that is really there for yourself and not because you gave them what they wanted. So that's really important to me.
I would like to pick into that, because that's something I run into a lot as a director. And I think it's very interesting you talk about it, both of you, because I think when you are a director or you create a live set or you're a lighting director or whatever, you're always hidden behind something, but you guys are always, I would say, naked on stage, so to say. And when I made my fiction, when I made Götterdämmerung, I was the one naked on stage because it was my story and all of that. And I was so scared because I had never done it. But I realized how intense that actually is. And it made me realize the stress sometimes I had with artists, and very often I think also with younger artists who are still venturing out there, like the fear just to do what their world is and not give a shit about the critics. And I think that's interesting when you work with very young or very older artists or experienced artists, that you see that the latter, after a while, they don't give a shit anymore. They're like, just, you know, a lot of people like it, so a lot of people will also hate it, whatever, let's move on. And just keep making what's in your soul, not being afraid of that. And I think the moment an artist releases that, and I've seen that magic happen with some of them, that they release the fear and they're just like basically naked on the stage in the literal sense, like I'm throwing myself in front of wolves without fear. That's where they usually break, where they really hit it really hard, where they really get success. And I think that's quite fascinating, you know, like, because it's a topic that comes back with almost everybody I've worked with, even people like Juliette Lewis, you know, like, who seems extremely self-confident. It's all the discussions were about exactly that, about, you know, how do I come on the stage? How do I leave? And I'm out there naked, you know, like, and there's nobody who can save me, that kind of feeling. So I think it's a very good attitude, and you should keep it. You should cherish it.
So it really seems like one of the reasons why it's important to have a good collaboration between director, producer, artist is because you're all going on a journey kind of through, I guess, like a metamorphosis from a caterpillar to a butterfly in the most, you know, in the ideal scenario. I think that that's a really nice place to leave off, because it's kind of a metaphor for the creative process, and that's what this this round was all about. So I would like to continue the night by sharing a couple of videos. One of them is going to be from KOWNU, and that's their video for Mother. And I would like to also share a music video from Collective Conscience, and this is directed by Björn, and it's called Sanctuary. Check it out.
Gaan we, laatste keer. En actie.
In darkness, she looks over the river, tall, wise, and silent, except for when the wind blows, then she whispers.
soft, sweet, and easy. She speaks her own tongue, and everyone hears something else: joy, comfort, pain. When it rains, she sings, she dances, she laughs. Loud, proud, somehow both violent and graceful. She is, and she was, and she will always be mother, mother. Moonlight seeps through the clouds, basking her green in a moody blue. The rebel at her feet inhales her scent before, digging through soil, ripping out roots, carving out bark, adding honey to her healing brew, to make the bitter more tasty. A recipe that cannot be bought, but only gifted by a mother. Mother, my touch, you'll catch fire. When sunlight touches her crown, she'll breathe. She will gift her blossoms to the breeze, to be carried away by the water, down the path of three brave daughters who ran and raised the village on their own. There where the river meets the sea, behold their son. He follows the horizon, rebel in his own right, tall, wise, and silent, and soft, and sweet, and easy. Loud, proud, somehow both violent and graceful. Mother, I am a free. Mother, I am a free man. I am a free man, a free man, free man.
Since you could be your body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now, get away now. Since you could be your body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now.
fantasies unruly. Nowadays, Spain in movies. Daily duty skip, left my lips looking ruby. Took a sippy, dropped the RE, now I'm ready like the Fugees for an unintended trip to Mississippi. You get me tripping. You can take me where I want. In the car next to us falling, really anywhere I want. Within just a couple snaps, couple smacks, couple reps, and then lay my eyes to rest, exploding all your depths.
Sanctuary, body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now, get away now. Sanctuary, body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now, get away now.
Excuse me for my flaws, sucker for the love. Lost in internal wars, do none to change the cause. Careless about the laws, we stay to stop bars. A loss for a loss of words on each and every applause. Cause I drop jaws to the floor for a minute since 4. Back the bunch, had the door, rain the house by force. That game Sin discovery forever explored. 18 to 24 till this day still in close door.
Sanctuary, addiction and self-growth.
Sanctuary, body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now, get away now. Sanctuary, body, my go-to place when I gotta get away now. Get away now, get away now. Sanctuary, body, my go-to place.
So welcome back to the third and the final round. In this round, we'd like to talk about the more practical side to making music videos. There are like a lot of like young artists watching Popcontakt. So yeah, let's get into how to make like a high quality video.
Yeah, just a quick note. Jordan is on a very pressing deadline, so that's why he had to leave to edit this video. So for all of you at home who think, oh, there's something not working, it is. We're fine. So we're gonna move on with first a question for Björn.
Yes, Björn, I was wondering how directly does a budget impact the quality of a video? Like, does a high budget video automatically translate into a high quality video? Does a low budget video, is it hard to translate like a low budget video into, you know, something that's actually visually pleasing and of a certain kind of quality?
I think a good quote would be, the cliche would be my French producer Jérémy Borichon. He used to say you can have good, cheap, and fast, but you can only have two. And I think that was such a good way to put it when he was frustrated about budgets. But he was an unbelievable producer. He retired now. And he proved that the opposite is true. I think at the heart of every good music video is, of course, a brilliant track. Otherwise, I've learned that I've put a lot of effort and money into stuff that I made, which didn't produce anything good because the music wasn't good. So it starts there. And then I think it's the idea. It's very much about, it's very much about how strong the idea behind the video is. I think you had a great example, the video you just played before, Sanctuary. is an example of how less is more can be extremely powerful when you have a fantastic artist. I was pretty blown away by that track, actually. So beautiful. And it's so simple. It's a travel. You can buy a gimbal in the MediaMarkt these days for, I think, 70 euros, a good mobile phone, and you will make that shot. It's as simple as that. And I think it's really brilliant to show that. On the other hand, like you could go way further. It's much more complex, I think, like Reinier's videos, who is definitely much more into making complex stuff, choreo, lighting. He's definitely more dependent, I think, of budget to make something that comes close to his fantasy world. Because I think, in a way, correct me if I'm wrong, Reinier, I think it is really, you really live in your own fantasy world that you create, and it can be very challenging when you want to get that right. I think it's not about good cameras and a lot of crew. Just to quote some of people are my big examples. My biggest, why I started actually with photography was Helmut Newton. I was in the academy and I got a call from his agent telling me if I wanted to come over with photos I'd made for some fashion students. And I didn't realize it was the agent. She was called Ute Rockefeller, and she was 76 years old, and she was still stunningly, beautifully made up. And then I realized it was Helmut Newton's agent. And then later I met Helmut just once before he died. And he told me every shot I made in my whole life is made with one assistant, one lighting source, and in less than 60 meters of my hotel because I'm lazy. And I thought it's so amazing, because when you start to look at the shots, you see that it's actually true. But he had good ideas, he had the skills, and he had the eye to do it. And I think that's the basis. Like, and then you can make music videos for 1,000 euros. And it's a lot about finding your peers. Like how I actually got into the business and I got propelled into it was by one of the first things I ever did. It's an example to sort of demonstrate for the young people out there. You know, like I was asked to make CD covers and album vinyl covers for a club called La Rocca, which was a very legendary underground club in the 80s, which was the first ballroom acts were there. It was really pretty amazing. And it was Belgian club scene. And I had very little budget. It was the beginning of Photoshop. You didn't have Photoshop yet. And I had this friend of mine who worked for a company in Brussels that made Sun computers. So since he was my friend and since he worked there, I would go there like after hours, 10 o'clock when the whole office was empty, and we would sit there until the morning rendering out imagery. So that's the first processing guy I found, and I got him for free because he was my friend. And then the model in the shoot was a girl from the Fashion Academy who later became the very famous Veronique Branchino, you know. She's the girl in the cover of the La Rocca Ballroom Tunes one. And the makeup was done by a guy called Peter Phillips, who is now the most famous makeup artist in the world. He's the #1 for Chanel, he's done everything. And we were students, we had no money, we were like poor as hell, but we recognized each other's talent. And that, you know, when you recognize, you have the vision of recognizing talents. And I think the two artists here present have that vision most definitely, to find peers around them who are good. That's your real gold, you know. Steven Spielberg would call it production value. You get it for free because it's around you and they have your age and they also want to show off. And maybe you find a makeup artist who will become the new Peter Phillips. Maybe you'll find a DOP or a camera person who is more than averagely talented in your school. Maybe it could be your brother. Look at Billie Eilish. And I think that's where you start when you're young, you know, like look around you. Don't look at the big guys out there that cost a shitload of money. Look at the talent next to you and put your money into what you really need. Like if it's costumes or, you know, like stuff you can't get for free. Another example might be Collective Conscience. You know, like Collective Conscience came to me and they had no budget, but Bram was like bold enough to say, hey, Bjorn, you want to do a video? And I said, yes, of course, because you're an extremely brilliant drummer. and I wish I was as young as you and as cool as you, so I'm going to do it. So even that works. You will always charm people when you're doing something good. So I think it starts with being self-confident and doing like you Dutch can do best, you know, like nee heb je, ja kun je krijgen.
So it's about like finding like-minded people who are
Right.
passionate about your concept and ideas. Oh, great.
So, because for Reinier and for Latanya, like, because you've made some really beautiful videos, but where, in your experience, where do you cut costs and where shouldn't you? Like, maybe you figured out like, oh, maybe I can do that myself, and then later you were like, oh, maybe I should have gotten someone for that. Can you share some of your experience there?
Yeah, I think I first of all wanted to say I agree with Björn about looking around and finding people that can help you with stuff, and I think it's a great way to start when you want to make videos. And in regards to the cutting and the budget, I think you need to go over for yourself, what do you find most important? What do people want to recognize you for? If it's the styling, if it's the hair, the makeup, then that's where you need to put the money. And as you grow, you can evolve. But I think it's a personal thing, and you can do a lot with a little amount of money or people helping you out. But I do think, because I made a lot of videos doing a lot of things myself and asking the people around me, but I do feel like at some point you have these ideas that you want to create and make happen, and you have got to be willing to invest in your music because it's, you know, it's your thing and it's important. So it's a journey, but when you start, I don't know if there are people watching that want to start and make the music videos, it's definitely possible to just start.
It's really good. Just start. That's it.
Yeah.
So, and maybe also the difference maybe between, I know that it's very important to what you said, like you have your friends and see what talent is around you, but at a certain point, for myself, I was like, I want to do a lot with technology versus nature. And I found myself in a place that I was like, okay, I had like collected 20 computers and I had like this beamer and I had everything. But then I just thought I was filming it myself and I was doing it with a friend. And I thought, yeah, but if I just have a little bit more money, this could go from like 50 to 100. And then I started to raise a fund, or to subscribe to a fund. And I guess for now that really helped me to level it up just a little bit. So if you can, I would advise, if you have the time, to subscribe a fund.
Yeah, that's actually one of our next questions. Like, especially for the students watching, like how can you get help with financing your projects? Like, what are your experiences there?
Yeah, for me, you have a lot of different funds, and I started at the Amsterdam, what is it, fund for the kunsten. And I started with a little fund, like 5,000 euros. So I could experiment a little bit and write it, and then I got it, and then I decided to go for the Nieuwe Makersregeling, and that's like for young artists who they get funded for 2 years to develop themselves. And right now I'm in the middle of that project. So you have really a lot of funds also just for writing. But I went on the internet and I did research for a month, and then I came up with this fund, and it really fitted me perfectly when I wrote like the details. So yeah, just investigate.
What about you, Latanya?
Yeah, I agree. There are actually a lot of funds that want to give out the money. They're actually looking for creatives to give out the money to, because I think in a lot of situations, people might not think of it, or they think they might not get it, or it's for people that are in another stage in their career. But there are a lot of options for people that are starting out and want to receive some funding. And especially, it also forces you to really detangle your project and confront yourself in how you're going to make it happen and where the money is going to go. It teaches you a lot as well. And at the same time, I would also say, like when I do shows or when I earn some money with my music, I put it right back in. It's an investment into yourself. So yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah, so I want to move on to creating content. Social media has become like one of the main platforms. Like you have so many platforms on which you can share your music. Björn, do you think is social media for you? Has it been liberating to your content, or I mean? I can imagine that when you get a project that people come to you and they have a specific platform in mind, or they want content that can be shared on multiple platforms. Like, do you think social media has had a good impact on music videos?
I think it's the most fantastic thing again for this generation. It's a gift from God, I would say, even though I don't think Zuckerberg is God but the devil. I do think that it has a lot more benefits than it has negative parts to it, especially when you're an artist. Because I think it started a long time ago with the Arctic Monkeys, getting signed after they proved everybody wrong on social media. I think they were the first major band that didn't get signed on any label and actually got so big on social media that they were too big to avoid, basically. And I think that's been a game changer. And I think now I think everybody's so savvy. I look at my kids, how savvy they are with it. I'm a lot involved in that too, although I'm not so active on social media myself. Everything we produce has social media in mind. I think one of the biggest viral things we ever did was Tiesto. When we took Tiesto, when Tiesto went to the USA and went to Coachella the first time, he asked us to make a live show for him. And that was YouTube days. The other social media weren't so present yet, but YouTube was getting mature. And I remember that he didn't exist. Nobody knew about DJs, and especially not DJs headlining festivals. And he would come in festival after the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and we had designed the stage really for visual reproduction and with viral marketing in mind. So we built in 4 key moments in which we put 80% of the money. And we knew that the fans would start reproducing these 4 moments. And then the fans would actually start selling the tickets for Tiesto themselves because they start promoting it all over. And I think 3-4 years later, Tiesto was the first mega DJ in the world with a private jet. So I think another example we did was last year, we did the Fashion Academy for Antwerp, which is a fashion project, but it's very similar. And it's a very famous academy producing all these big names, but their local show is only for 2,000-3,000 local people. And we managed to convince them with COVID to go viral. And then the students were really sad because they're like, oh, no more live show. But then in the end, they managed to reach like hundreds and thousands of people, I think millions, more than Chanel and Vuitton on a budget, only because of self-promoting on social media, Vogue picking up the show and loving it. And boom, that would have been impossible 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think social media is a blessing in a way because it's so accessible for like artists of like different different levels in their career. How's it been for you, like Reindier? Like at what point in your creative process do you actually think about, oh, where do I want to, show my work? And, do you think about social media when you're creating already, or is that an afterthought?
It is still an afterthought. Maybe I should implement. It's way more than I did before, but for me, like, I love social media and the possibilities, and I'm still exploring like more and more about it, also about telling your personal story. But the limit for me is right now, like, I'm making like this chapter releases for my movie, and I see like Instagram, there's not a lot of availability to show large parts. So what you already said, like 12 seconds, that's it. You really have to grab people in those 12 seconds. And personally, I don't like that. So my art is more like I wish people could just sit back for it. But I know social media is not working like that. So I'm trying to make my mind also think differently.
Yeah, I can imagine that it can be a challenge to. I mean, if you want to tell an entire story to like, tell it in like 12 seconds or something. Yeah. Latanya, how's that for you? Like, what's your relationship with social media? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you?
Well, as an artist, I love it because creatively it allows you to. So if we're not only talking about Instagram, but all the platforms, it allows you to create something that fits you. So if you like short content, you can go on TikTok or on Instagram Reels or do stuff like that. If you like the longer one, you're going to YouTube. And I think it's really valuable to discover what works for you and what works for your audience, because you don't always have to make really long videos if it's not for you, or really short videos. And on a promotional level, I also think it's very powerful and cost effective in a way that the world is your audience and the bridges are everywhere. So I do think it's really important. And I am also not, when I'm in my creation process, I'm not thinking about Instagram at all. But I do in a way when I want to collaborate with people, or I'm looking for inspiration visually or in the music. It's really easy to just go on there and find things that give you inspiration. So I think it's really interesting. But at the same time, it's very, I think as an artist, when you're creating, you're in a very vulnerable place. And when you're going on Instagram, it's very public and there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening. You're getting messages, response. And it can be very hard to stay in your space when you're getting a lot of triggers. So I think you have to find your own way around it.
Yeah, a lot of the artists I work with have their social media managed by somebody else because of that reason. But I have one advice maybe for Reinier also. Since you work with longer content, I've also been working in fiction, and you combine these genres. I do understand the frustration of the short form, but the way you should treat it is very much like I was talking about Tiesto 6-hour-long show. He couldn't show that on social media either, but you have to use the storytelling around whatever your artwork is to trigger people to the platform that you control. It could be your own website, but it is this traffic you create on social media that drives people to your own space, and in your own space, your boss. So you don't need to put everything on social media. You just use it as, let's say, a fly catcher, you know, like the honey for the bees. But I definitely understand the frustration of the quality being in the little square, and especially the distraction of all the other content around it. You would want everybody to be concentrated. So that's an advice I would give to you, like build a story around your story and use that in little bits. And then you keep your platform the way you would like it.
And then it's of course also fun, because I see a lot of people like struggling, but the more and more also your story about the connection and finding like a makeup artist through Instagram, that's amazing. Like I love that aspect, but sometimes I don't know why it is that you feel like a little bit grumpy sometimes, like you've already made your art, you've thought about so much, and then the most important thing feels like putting it on social media for people to understand it, and then you are like, oh, why also this? But yeah, I have to learn about it.
I do think as well that the streaming platforms, the social platforms like Instagram are these days built around people's behavior. So if they would enable people to watch really long videos, it might not trigger them as much as you would want to. So I agree with Björn that it's you can use it as a way to lead people towards a place where they can watch the whole thing. And yeah, it's sometimes difficult to go with that flow because you really want people to sit down and be really patient, but people are just really impatient these days, so it's difficult sometimes.
Very short attention span. I have a question because having a music video these days does not directly correlate to monetary gain. So Latanya, why do you still choose to make a music video, even though you know that that's not probably not going to be a place where you make like a lot of money as an artist? Like, why make the investment still?
It's the art. I make it because I want to express myself, because I want to give the story to the people that do give it a bit more time to process. And I think it shapes you as an artist as well, that, you know, when people go look you up, or they want to write about you, or they research you, that they have a sense of what you're really doing, what you stand for. And yeah, it's just an expression, just like the music. You know, if the people wouldn't listen to my music, I wouldn't stop making music. And I see that it's the same way for me with the visuals. But it is interesting to explore different ways to make visuals. It doesn't always have to be a music video, but it can be anything. So that's exciting.
Cool, that's beautiful. Reindier, how about you? Like, why make the big budget video if you know you're not gonna?
No, yeah, the same thing. There's no way I'm not gonna do it. It's like, and also maybe right now, I don't know, 5 people will look at it, but in the end in 5 years, maybe they search the music and then they come to the video and they're like, oh, wow, this is what I was missing the whole time. I mean, it's not just now; it's forever out there. So, and I want to make it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it also builds a connection with you and your audience, because, you know, I think we all have videos of our favorite artists and certain moments that have like connected us to them.
Yes,
so, yeah.
For sure. So to round it off with a last question, what is such great advice that you might have had, or like such a good experience you might have had that you want to share it with us, or such bad advice or like a bad experience you want to share with us too, so that we can learn from it, if you're willing to be so open. I want to hear it from all of you.
Björn, let's start with you.
Yeah.
So let me wait. It's 2 questions in one. The worst experience and the best experience.
Yeah, and really like what could you give as advice concerning like creating visual content?
I think the best thing is not giving a shit what people think. That's the best advice I've ever got. Because the moment I started not giving a shit, I actually started to make interesting stuff. When I was less busy with thinking about what other people were thinking. And that was extremely liberating. It took me a few years to come to that point, actually. So I think that's definitely the best advice I ever got. And the worst experience or advice I would have to think of. I think it's the opposite of that, actually.
Of course.
Yeah, I think definitely maybe also overstretching yourself. I think I think that's the big problem with. You know, like I think the most expensive commercial I ever filmed was a Chinese one for Martel, and I think the budget was 1 million euros for 45 seconds, and it was still full of bad decisions. So the money is never enough. That's the thing. So I think the thing you learn from that is like, if the idea is not good in the basis, forget about it, give it up, and then maybe not. When you're a video maker or a content producer, don't waste your time on people's questions where you don't see the value for yourself. And as a musician, it's the other way around. If people like me will come up to you and say, I have this amazing fashion show, which you have to put your energy in as a music producer and make all this music for me, and it's going to be really fabulous, but you don't feel it. And you're still doing it. That after a while feels really stressful. It's sort of after a while it sort of takes away your energy, I think. should only go for the things that you feel like, I'm going to go 100% for this. Because the more popular they get, the more questions you will be having. And it's very difficult to say no. It's also why you need people like Jordan in the middle in my profession, and why when it's going really good, you need somebody in between you and the audience, or in between you and all the offers you're going to get, because you're going to get a lot of them.
That's great advice. I also love what you said about like $1 million not being able to save a bad idea. Latanya, what would be your best advice, or the worst advice you ever got or experienced?
I would say the best advice is you gotta do the work. You gotta be willing to work, to, you don't have to overwork yourself, but you gotta be on top of your stuff. If you don't do it, no one is gonna do it for you. And you don't wanna be in a situation where other people did all this stuff for you, and then at some point you're like, okay, but I don't know anything. I don't really know maybe who you are or what you really want. I think it's really important to just put in the work.
Great. Reindier.
Yeah, for me, it was taking time to develop and to really think what I'm doing. Because as an artist, you're always feeling like, I have to release next month, because otherwise everybody's forgetting me. Like, no, nobody's forgetting you, and nobody is even thinking of you. That's stupid to say, but in the beginning, just take the time to develop. Because for me, it was like, at a point, some people said to me, oh, you really belong in the theater world. And then I went to the theater world, and they said, no, you really belong to the pop world. And I was like going to the pop world, and they were like, no, it's theater. So I was like ping-ponging. And then at a certain point, I was like, okay, wait, they don't understand what I'm doing exactly. So I'm gonna really think, what is my box? And that's gonna be the Reindier box, and I don't belong to anyone. And it took me some years, but now it really feels like I made that box for myself.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Preach.
Preach.
Yeah, free in the box. I mean, like the box is
Find your box. No, I think that's. I think I speak for all of us if I say that we really enjoy talking to you, and it's been a very valuable conversation. And I think
Very
everybody
inspiring.
listening has learned a lot of out of this conversation. So I'd like to invite Cody back.
The man.
Yes.
Vision. A lot of people think and have associations with vision and the human eye. But in order for you to experience vision with your eye, a lot of people had to have vision in their mind. Vision is kind of an apparition, something like a mirage in the desert, or like the North Star that guides you in a certain direction. Even though you don't know what's over there, you just follow it, and you'll take what consequences come with this decision to follow your vision. And you don't have to do it alone. You have to actually know a lot of really amazing people who also can see the vision here, so that lucky people can see it here. I'd like to thank all of our amazing guests, and I'd like to thank all of our amazing interviewers and our producer and our team. This was a really fun night, and I personally got a bunch of gems, which I'm stealing tomorrow. Thanks so much, guys. This has been Popcontakt. But before you leave, we have one more video from Punt Judith, and it's a concert video. So stick around for that. My name's Cody, and I'd like to sincerely thank you for spending your time here with us.
Thank you, Cody.
Het niet te leren, je saboteert me. Zeg blijf maar grommen, blijf maar vechten tegen die blinde vlekken, dirigeert me. Staat op en neemt me over, staat me uren aan te sturen, sleept me 's ochtends door het slijk, je saboteert me.
Oh groei dan godverdomme toch, is zo. Ik wacht maar op wat dan. En die leegte staart me aan. Oh ik moet echt weg hier. Maar je laat me nog steeds niet gaan. En ik wacht maar op wat dan. En die leegte staart me aan. Oh ik moet echt weg hier. Maar je laat me nog steeds niet gaan. Vannacht ga ik dansen. En morgen een ander zijn. Nee, niks meer overblijft. En zo langzaam de tijd verstrijkt. Ik ga dansen. En morgen een ander zijn. Ik slaap waar ik wil. Die stem eindelijk stil. De chaos uit mijn hoofd verdwijnt. Moe van jou en moe alleen, moe van gevaar. Moe van spijt, van verschil en van gelijk. En schreeuwen als er niemand kijkt. Verman me, hou me sterk. Ik ben gewoon een vrouw. Waarom ben ik nou niet blij? Of was dit niet wat ik wou? Moe van jou en moe alleen, moe van gevaar. Moe van spijt, van verschil en van gelijk. En schreeuwen als er niemand kijkt. Mooier was het nooit tevoren. Juist nu dat het feest weer over is. En dat deze dag en dit dan echt voorbij. Het ochtendgloren is ook mooi, maar minder zonder jou bij mij. In dit licht kijk je om naar die dagen, alles leek te kunnen. Ik koester jou daarom. In dit licht kijk je om naar die dagen, alles leek te kunnen. Ik koester jou daarom. Speelt de wind een liefdespel, steeds een stukje van me mee. Vuurt je door mijn aderen, als alle rivieren naar de zee. Naakter was ik nooit tevoren als je naar me kijkt. Ik hoef je niks te zeggen, want je kent al lang mijn spijt. In dit licht kijk je om naar die dagen, alles leek te kunnen. Ik koester jou daarom, wie ik was of dacht te zijn. Telkens weer een andere, blijven we zweven tot het eindelijk. Kijk je om naar die dagen, alles leek te kunnen. Ik koester jou daarom, wie ik was
anders kon. Ik heb heus geen spijt. Zomer in oktober, ik ben je toch niet kwijt. Onze matrassen in een weerwaar van muziek. Zomer in oktober en daartussen ik. Zoveel gezichten, zoveel gezichten, zoveel gezichten hier. Drinken we onder de herfstlucht, blijven we zoeken naar de zon. We gaan maar bewegen langs elkaar. Blijven we zoeken naar de zon. Ik wou dat alles kon. Ik ben laatst vertrokken, maar het werd ook wel weer tijd. De stad waarin ik thuis hoor, ik ben je toch niet kwijt. Gaan we steeds maar verder, op zoek naar iets, misschien geluk. Verbrande oude kaarten, want alles gaat toch stuk. Zoveel gezichten, zoveel gezichten, zoveel gezichten hier. Drinken we onder de herfstlucht, blijven we zoeken naar de zon. We gaan maar bewegen langs elkaar. Blijven we zoeken naar de zon. Ik wou dat alles kon.
Hoi hoi.